Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to another edition of Living in the Matrix. Yeah, it's early morning right now. I'm pretty much having my morning coffee, but I decided that I wanted to do pretty much part two of the subject of racism in the world of professional wrestling. And some of the topics I wanted to talk about and and pretty much move on to something else. I wanted to really wrap this up today, but I don't want to take too long, being on here and everything, and boring people with useless rhetoric. I want to make some valid points and get you people out there to think is what I want to do. And pretty much I came across some very interesting facts about professional wrestling, the history of it. And the more and more I dig and I find out about this surreal world of professional wrestling, it doesn't make me any less of a person, person that still doesn't enjoy the business. But it really opens my eyes up to the fact that we still have a long way to go in this country, before there is truly equality. And that's really going all of all over across the board, and I really do feel that it still exists, and it still runs wild. And I know you guys out there are thinking, oh, but they but the Rock, the Rock. Look, okay, the Rock is not like truly he's not fully black, although he will admit himself, or will avoid the issue that he is black, indeed black, if you look at it as the dominant gene, pretty much. And really, that's a whole nother story, entirely. I don't want to really do anything like that right now. So I'm just gonna begin this by saying, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another edition, again, of Living in the Matrix. And today's topic is going to be part two of, does racism still exist in the world of professional wrestling? And my answer is, like I've said once before, it does. Okay? And I'm just here to open up your minds and just get you to be free thinkers, and just put two and two together on some of these things, that you were always thinking, but you never came out and said anything because maybe you didn't want to, get into a debate with anyone about about the subject, because it truly is a very touchy subject matter. And there are a lot of people, places that will not discuss it, even in the indies, even in the indies. And I was in the business nearly 12 years and whatnot, and grew up in the business. And I can tell you some of the places that I worked for, very disrespectful to people of color, and I'm not just talking about blacks, being a black man. I'm talking about my Hispanic brothers out there. I'm talking about them too. They were probably really, to me, by white promoters, they're probably like one of the most disrespected also, in the wrestling business, as far as race goes, and you're trying to go to the mainstream. And here it is, we're in the year 2013, and you would think that we we have moved past it, and we have, integrated the business and everything, but we haven't. I mean, and we have a truly, truly long way to go, before the business, is truly, integrated, and people, of all colors, get a break and can catch a break, and things of that nature. An interesting point that I want to make is that back in the day, they said the reason that white promoters didn't put over black men was because of the fact that they thought that black people, in a whole, didn't buy enough tickets, and there wasn't enough black asses in seats, is how they put it, to put black men over, in a major situation, like to win titles or to be involved in major storylines, especially back in the day. Of let's say the Crockett era is what I want to start off with, okay, and that is going to really move into what I call the Elvis Presley syndrome that exists then and exists now. Okay, is what I'm going to call it, the Elvis Presley syndrome. I'm going to get into that. Okay, so they said the reason that they didn't put over black men, black wrestlers, black athletes, whatever you want to say, was because there wasn't enough black asses in seats, and they felt like that in order to put over a black man, there had to be, an appeal to the black audience. Okay, which we know now that we have, we have, guys that have the charisma that will break all barriers. Okay, as much as I hate to talk about this guy, okay, we will go back to The Rock. Okay, The Rock broke down a whole lot of race barriers and what have you. Being someone of color, as much as he probably hates to admit it or whatever. But that's what I think. He appeals, to everyone. I mean, and it does take a special person to appeal to absolutely everyone to make it in the business. I mean, and you have to be, a special, a special kind of individual. And I will admit that. But this is what these white promoters thought, and that's why a lot of guys that did have that appeal never got that break. And I will, go on to say a guy like Sweet Daddy Siki that was in Canada. I mean, he got the biggest, reception in Canada, whether he was a heel or a babyface. Sweet Daddy Siki, had charisma. He had charisma, and he was a big guy, and he appealed, to kids. He appealed to adults. I mean, and he pretty much was the man back then, and he never got the recognition that was due him. Never got it. And then there's another guy, Bad News Allen. Okay, he had a short stint in the WWF with Bret Hart. He worked Bret Hart. I guess him and Bret Hart, it was at the end of a battle royal or something like that, and that's when Bad News really, came into the public eye after he, turned on Bret Hart, and excuse me. He turned on Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart, and he had an angle. But it didn't last that long. I mean, they kind of cut it at the hilt. But what a lot of people don't know is Bret Hart and Bad News worked each other in Canada. They had an angle in Canada and had one of the first ever ladder matches in Canada. And if you watch a lot of the old Bad News, videos, he was a he was a great worker, and not only that, he could talk on the microphone. Although they didn't even put the mic in Bad News' hands at the time that he was in the WWF, they never put it in his hands. They never gave him the mic. He was only on the microphone maybe a couple of times, and that's it. Makes you think, doesn't it? But anyway, those guys were the guys that you hardly seen. Those were the guys that you hardly seen. Okay, so let's fast forward to the 80s, okay, to a lot of other unsung guys that were in the business that people hardly, hardly seen. I remember I watched an interview with Mr. Brickhouse Brown. In case you're watching Brickhouse, kudos, my man. I watch your stuff all the time. I watched you as a worker growing up, and you are still the man. You're still in shape, and you can still work, man. You're the man. You're the man. You're the man. I watched an interview with Brickhouse a little while back, and he is one of the most entertaining guys that I have ever seen. But I watched Brickhouse growing up, and he was one of the guys that made me, wanted to, made me want to get into the business. But I watched an interview with him, and he had admittedly said on this interview that he lost the Texas heavyweight title in the shower. He lost the Texas heavyweight title in the shower. Okay, now we're talking about world class. Okay, we're talking about Texas. We're talking about world class. Let's not put any smoke and mirrors up. Okay, I'm a big world class fan. I was a fan of the Von Erichs growing up and whatnot, but Fritz was in charge, and and if that man lost the Texas heavyweight title in the shower, okay, what is that telling you? Okay, he said Brotho Luvic, I think that's his name, the referee, seized the title while the man was in the shower. Okay, while the man was in the shower, he seized the Texas heavyweight title. The championship belt, the Texas heavyweight championship